So Isaac Mutuma has officially taken over Meru County as the governor, coming from that space where he was the deputy governor, and now the courts have declared that Kawira Mwangaza is not fit to hold that particular office. And of course, as you would expect, they say power abhors vacuum, and the deputy decided that it would be very important, or let's just say it is as the constitution declares, that of course the deputy then ascends to power in the event that the governor is not there. So tonight we take a look at what it is like to deputize a governor, and why for the longest of time there's this general feel that there's a bone of contention between the deputy governors and the governors. We'll be looking at that shortly, engaging deputy governors of different counties as well as specialists on matters governance, so that they can tell us what it means to make sure that indeed, of course, that there's that seamless or synchrony when it comes to serving the people of particular counties. And we just ask you to again be part of this conversation. As always, the hashtag is the Daily Report. We'll be looking at some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. But let's cross over to the JKL. Of course, we expect that finally there's the landing of the Netherlands. Yes, they have arrived. Live pictures from the JKIA. All right. Bilateral talks expected to be happening. All right, giving you updates of that as we continue. And so, yes, the King of Netherlands, Queen as well, have just landed in the country, and expectations of bilateral engagements that are supposed to play out between them and the president. And of course, we'll be giving you updates as to the same. And once, of course, it is all settled in. And of course, this then would mean we go back to what we have prepared for you as to news. As you can evidently see, received there by the Deputy President, that is Kithure Kindiki, signing this book, of course, just to acknowledge their presence in the country and just how much they are committed to us having the bilateral talks between the two nations, so that then we get to understand some more as to what it would mean when we have these bilateral agreements. And this... All right, of course, I'm told that we will be coming back to that shortly, but allow us first to take a look at what is in the world of news.
Tonight, Prophet Peter Kimondo denies all charges against him after he was arraigned in court over sodomy allegations. Also tonight, Their Majesties the King and Queen of Netherlands arrive in the country for a week-long state visit. Plus, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua deposits will with his lawyers on Mount Kenya politics and succession. Kisii leaders meet conveners of Limuru 3 and Jubilee Party leaders after the party endorsed Fred Matiang'i's candidature for 2027.
Some of those comments that have been made by others, kwamba some communities hawatoshi boga, and we are saying part of our document is recognizing that every community in this country inatosha boga.
All right, and as you have seen right there, live pictures of the visit of the King and Queen of Netherlands, and of course we'll be expecting to give you updates as to what this 4 days visit or state visit then would mean, beginning today upon that landing. King Alexander and Her Majesty Queen Maxima are expected to be here in the country for 4 days, as I have highlighted, and of course coming on board with a delegation that comprises of specialized agriculture, horticulture, irrigation, water infrastructure and sustainable diplomats. So that is sustainable financing. Perhaps the main then agenda would be addressing some of this and how the two countries then can work together in synchrony. I'll be giving you updates of that as and when they get to hit the editorial desk. But away from it, it's important that then we appreciate the presence of our sign language interpreter, that is Catherine Simaloi, who will be helping me with the broadcast. And my name is Linda Alela. The broadcast begins right away, where Pastor Prophet Peter Kimondo of Christ Impact Church has denied all the charges against him when he was arraigned at the Nakuru Law Courts on Monday. And as Chichi Josephine now reports, Kimondo denied all charges against him, including rape, sodomy, and indecent acts.
Appearing before Senior Residence Magistrate Ruth Kefa for plea taking at the Nakuru Law Courts on Monday, Pastor Peter Kimondo of Christ Impact Church in Meru denied all charges against him.
Peter Kimondo Baragu ameshtakiwa na ubakaji. Maelezo yafuatayo: tarehe 27 mwezi wa 5 mwaka 2022, mwendo wa saa 3 jioni katika eneo la White House iliyoko Nakuru Sub County, Nakuru County, kwa kusudi na kinyume cha sheria ulisababisha ume wako kuingia kwa makalio ya James Kiaria Mungai bila idhini yake. Haya maelezo ni kweli au si kweli?
The man of the cloth is facing, among other charges, rape, sodomy, and indecent acts. This comes a day after he was arrested on Sunday when police raided his home in Meru and was locked at the Nakuru police station. Kimondo, who has been on the run, was accused that on May 27th, 2022, he sodomized a Nakuru resident. However, the counsel for the accused, Karen, asked the court to release Kimondo on bail all bond terms, a request that faced strong opposition from the prosecution side on grounds that releasing the suspect would endanger the life of the victim.
The truth of and the underlying nature of the offense is baseless and unfounded. We are praying for a lenient and very reasonable cash bail.
Releasing the accused at this moment, Your Honor, will endanger the life of the victim, and Your Honor, the accused person is likely to interfere with witnesses at this point.
Kimondo was arrested alongside James Kang'ethe, whom they were found together in Nairobi, and will be produced as a state witness in the case and will not face any charges. The magistrate is expected to deliver her ruling on 18th March 2025 on whether to release the suspect on bond terms or not. Chichi Josephine, TV47, Nakuru.
And to what forms the basis of our conversation tonight, Isaac Mutuma has taken over as the Meru County Governor after he was sworn in on Monday. This comes after the High Court upheld the Senate's decision to impeach Kawira Mwangaza. Mutuma took oath of office at Mwendanto grounds in Meru County in a ceremony that was graced by leaders from in and out of the county. Andrew Nkilemi with the details of that.
Leaders and residents from across Meru County gathered at Mwendanto grounds in Meru town to witness the swearing-in of Isaac Mutuma Ntoethinia as the fourth governor of Meru, succeeding Kawira Mwangaza.
Without fear, favor, affection, ill will, so help me.
In his maiden speech, Mutuma committed to working together with leaders from the region by holding regular consultation meetings to champion the interests of the region.
I am committed to revamping the Meru Youth Service as the institution will train more young people in modern skills that matches today's job market demands.
Former Meru Governor Kiraito Moronge has backed Mutuma's leadership, urging county leaders to unite behind him.
Sisi kama vijana tulikuwa tumefinyiliwa na uongozi uliopita, vijana hawakupata nafasi. Hii imeonyesha ya kwamba ata create more ajira kwa vijana, kupitia ile youth service ambayo atakuwa akifanya.
Tuko na matumaini makubwa sana na yeye ya kwamba atarudisha Meru mahali pale ilikuwa zamani na aiendeleze hata zaidi.
Having served as the deputy governor since 2022, Mutuma ascended to the county's top leadership after Mwangaza's impeachment was upheld by a court ruling on March 14, 2025. Before his tenure as deputy governor, he served in the Kenya Prisons Service as a senior officer. Mutuma's swearing in follows a prolonged leadership battle that culminated in Mwangaza's removal. Andrine Kilemi, TV47.
Thank you, Andrine, for that. Now, a section of Gusii leaders today held a meeting with Limuru 3 conveners here in Nairobi, agreeing to work together. 16 parties, including Jubilee Party and the Taifa Democratic Coalition, were represented in the meeting. And this comes after the Jubilee Party endorsed former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i for presidency in the 2027 polls.
Gusii leaders on Monday convened a meeting with Limuru 3 conveners to chart a path ahead of the 2027 elections, in what has been seen as a move in the reshaping of political alliances ahead of the 2027 elections.
We have agreed in principle to work together with, they agreed to work with us as Taifa Democratic Coalition, which has got 3 political parties, PDP, KNC and Kenya Social Congress, so that we can be able to build a better Kenya.
The 16 parties met at the residence of former South Mugirango MP Manson Nyamweya, this meeting coming after the endorsement of former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i by the Uhuru Kenyatta-led party. Recently, leaders from the Gusii and Kuria communities met in Nairobi to forge a development path ahead of the 2027 polls, coming after the agreement between ODM and Kenya Kwanza, which sparked mixed reaction across the country, including the Gusii region.
Yeah, of course, there are some of those comments that have been made by others. Some communities hawatoshi boga, and we are saying part of our document is recognizing that every community in this country inatosha boga.
And if we are moving out, it is actually when it's going to be actualized, because we moved in with utmost sincerity, but I think the divorce,
giving an impression that Kisii people in ODM is wrong. Okay? Out of 65 Kisii and Nyamira, he doesn't even have 20. So where did we move from ODM from?
With today marking a formative meeting for these parties to work together, they say they will give a way forward in the coming days.
All right, it will be interesting to watch just how politics shapes up in the country. We have not heard any single word from Fred Matiang'i just yet, but definitely that assurance coming from the Jubilee Party is something to go by. And of course, we await to see how this will definitely shape up. Now, the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has declared that the Mount Kenya region has officially joined the opposition, a decision made after he was impeached. And as Mike Agungo now reports, the former Deputy President, during an interview with a vernacular station, revealed that he has written a will which is deposited with his lawyers, that is on the succession politics on Mount Kenya if he is eliminated.
Speaking during an interview with a local station in his Kikuyu dialect Monday morning, Gachagua announced that the Mount Kenya region has officially joined the opposition after his impeachment 5 months ago.
Reu ne kuga reu ndari thirikari ne mung'etha
reu ni kuingatwo thirikari ni akaingatwo guthiiko aingatwo guthiiko mundu gwitwo Kengei ni kuingatwo ingatitwo.
The former deputy president also revealed that he has drafted a will that is set to direct the region politically, should his opponent succeed in what he termed as eliminating him. The will, which he says is deposited with his lawyers, is to give the direction on the Mount Kenya succession politics, according to the former Mathira MP.
marwa macio nĩ magathomwo kwĩ rũrĩrĩ rwĩrĩ ũrĩa ndĩreciria na ũrĩa bangĩte
marwa macio
mena wakiri nengerete wakiri matatũ yandĩkĩte marwa atĩ ũmũthĩ ũrĩa wa Gachagua angĩhinga ritho angĩona ũru muthome ĩyo nĩ ndũmĩrĩri yakwa kũrĩ rũrĩrĩ atĩ mũngĩikara ũũ mũngĩthiĩ njĩra ĩno mũngĩikara njĩra ĩno mĩtego ĩrĩa mũigĩirwo nĩ ĩno mũndũ ũrĩa atũbangĩire maũndũ macio mothe nĩ nyandĩkĩte tondũ bange succession ya miaka 50 ya rũrĩrĩ rũrũ ĩyo nĩ rigaca yakwa he nyũmba ĩno.
Gachagua says there are plans to fire 10 principal secretaries from the Mount Kenya region so as to make room for Raila Odinga's political allies in the looming purge. A move that he has termed as a betrayal of the agreement he had made with the president, which stated that Mount Kenya region will get 15 principal secretaries positions if they won the 2022 elections.
Niba PS arabanga ũrĩa kũmacenjania niĩ twacirĩte nake negotiate ma PS 15 o county itu ciothe PS umwe county ya Meru 2 Kiambu 2 Laikipia 2 na Nyeri 2 ici umwe nginya Kajiado twina PS witagwo Kĩmotho Raila aretia ma PS 15 ngĩrwo aratuĩka nĩ akũnengerwo 10 William Ruto rĩu arabanga kũingata andũ aitũ.
This comes after his supporters in the National Assembly were kicked out of various committees. Gachagua demanding that the president should use his scheduled Mount Kenya tour to explain to residents why he kicked out his allies from lucrative parliamentary committees.
He has removed leaders from the area, from departmental committees in the Senate, in Parliament, in the National Assembly. Many people have been removed from the executive. So the people of the mountain would expect him to address them and tell them why he has turned against them, why he has purged the leadership of the region from government, despite the region having voted him to a man.
This as Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka maintained that all leaders allied to Gachagua will unite to make sure they send President Ruto home, highlighting how the country is broke due to theft of public funds by the current regime.
Mimi vile nilisimama wima wakati ule nikaokoa serikali ya Kibaki. Sasa tunaungana na Rigiji na wenzetu wote kuhakikisha wajamaa wanaenda nyumbani.
Gachagua has joined hands with political heavyweights in an effort to make Ruto a one-term president. Among them Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, DAPK leader Eugene Wamalwa and PLP leader Martha Karua. Mike Kagwango, TV47.
All right, now we turn focus to the complex and emotional international case involving a Kenyan citizen, Margaret Nduta, who faces the death penalty in Vietnam for drug trafficking. The story has sparked an urgent appeal for her family and prompted, from her family and prompted intervention by the Kenyan government. However, with no Kenyan embassy in Vietnam and significant diplomatic hurdles to overcome, this case has become a test of both time and diplomacy. And so Moge William tells us of the diplomatic predicament that Kenya is facing in rush to save Nduta. I'll be crossing over to Moge William, but also to remind you that we have John Kinoth here, who's a security expert and also international relations expert, just to help us decipher some more on what this case means and what it would mean for us as a country. But before we get to that quick talk, allow us to listen into what Moige has in store. Moige, over to you.
Indeed, if Vietnamese stay true to their laws, Kenya may just lose a soul. Margaret Nduta, convicted of drug peddling. Now, there is an ongoing passionate appeal launched by the family. The government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has jumped into it. But all factors laid bare, it is a diplomatic quagmire. Why? Kenya does not have a diplomatic mission, embassy or consulate in Vietnam. Kenya's embassy in Thailand is accredited to Vietnam. As of this hour, our sources have confirmed that Kenyan officials following on Nduta's matter are yet to be granted visas. Meanwhile, Vietnam's embassy in Tanzania is accredited to Kenya, and while relations between Nairobi and Hanoi remain cordial, the two states do not have bilateral agreements. The complicated intricacies mean that Kenya is not going to expeditiously sort out the muddle. Foreign Ministry Principal Secretary Korir Singwe admitted to this that Nduta's matter was not an easy one. Vietnam has the world's toughest drug laws, and anyone found guilty of possessing or smuggling more than 600 grams of heroin or cocaine faces the death penalty. Nduta had been busted with 2 kilos of cocaine. Well, TikTok, the clock is ticking, and Nduta's fate is quickly knocking. That's it, Linda. Over to you.
Moige William for giving us that update and as well enlightening us. We'll be having a quick interview to expound that some more, but still on the same. Yes, now we link up with Edward Muthungu, a Kenyan working in Vietnam, that is for the past 1 year, just to paint a picture on the state of affairs more and Sumata application of law to both locals and the foreigners.
I'm an English teacher here in Vietnam. I have lived here for 1 and maybe some 2 or 3 months in Vietnam. And I will say my experience in Vietnam has been amazing. It was a bit maybe tough for me, maybe in the first 2 months to settle down, which is normal for anyone settling down in a new country. But I remember when I first came in Vietnam, when I landed in Ho Chi Minh City airport, I remember things were different. I've had the privilege to travel to other countries before, China, Qatar, and whenever we landed to those countries, mainly the messages were like the welcoming message to that country, but I found something more to the welcoming message in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City. They were very strict. They were crystal clear on their laws. They state that it's prohibited, it's not allowed for anyone, either you're a Vietnamese, either you're a foreigner, for you to participate in anything to do with drugs. And they will say in all languages so that anyone can understand that it's not allowed completely to do any kind of drug trafficking in Vietnam.
All right, and we now get to a quick, update as to the same, and of course with my guest this evening, as he helps us, understand it some more, because then the complexities that come along with this case, even as the government has said, is definitely, what we would want to understand some more. So Kinuth here, John, is my guest this evening for that very matter, as we look at this fight that, Nduta is on and the country at large is on. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much for creating time after a very long time.
By all means.
Yes. What do you make of the entire case? Just to begin from there.
The first thing I would say is that, like the PS said, it's a very complex case. It has about 5 layers that are layers of complexity that the average person looking at the case may not appreciate. The first one is a legal angle. And this legal angle is primarily a criminal case. So Nduta is accused of having traveled to Vietnam carrying a suitcase which had a secret compartment. And within that secret compartment were found 2 kilograms of cocaine, which, whether you look at it by street value or just by the sheer volume, that's a lot of drugs. The case against her commenced July 2023 when she was arrested. There are lots of stories going around, but all of them have a few facts in common. The first one is that she left Kenya, headed abroad. And the second one is at some point, she got possession of a suitcase that was laden with drugs. The third one is that she was arrested. The fourth one is that she didn't make a phone call to her sister. She has a twin sister, apparently, I believe called Rose Wamboi, something close to that. And she made a phone call, but the communication was not successful. She only got to say hello and the call was terminated. She's gone through the legal process in Vietnam which is very, very strict. They have very harsh criminal penalties for that kind of offense. And most importantly, they exercise swift justice. And for them, it's usually capital punishment, which means the person is put to death. They had a firing squad, death by firing squad up to 2011. And currently, they have lethal injection.
Okay.
The fourth fact is she was scheduled to be hanged today. Vietnam is 4 hours difference from us. So the process was to commence with her last meal. So there was a timestamp given for 7:30 p.m. there, which was 3:30 p.m. our time. The last fact is there has been some diplomatic level intervention.
Do you suppose this is working? Because then...
The kind of diplomacy is... Now we've covered the first layer, which is the criminal law. The second layer is a political layer. Political because politics respond to public outcry. That's why people say this is a matter of public importance. So there was a public outcry. So the siblings did not realize her fate until very recently, when her case had really progressed through the criminal justice system in Vietnam.
Do you suppose the Kenyan government then came in good time? Was it adequate? That is the response. Was it timely in any manner?
So the first one, it was reactive to the public pressure. The second one is we don't have an embassy there. So the embassy we have is in Bangkok, Thailand,
and,
and covers the region, the Southeast Asia region. Now, there were 3 different autonomous sort of engagements. The first one is from the deputy foreign minister of that country, getting a phone call from our PS in charge of foreign affairs. The second one was the embassy there in Bangkok, sending actual emissaries to go to Vietnam, which is within their diplomatic right because they cover the region. The third one was a presidential level engagement, initially initiated by the current president, Dr. William Ruto, and seconded by the former president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who enjoys a good relationship with the current leader, who was a former military commander, and the presidency in Vietnam is kind of ceremonial. But there have been those 3 levels. The third level, apart from legal and political, is diplomatic in the effect of the formal diplomatic process. So what was launched was, a very formal diplomatic document that detailed the case and detailed for what Kenya was asking for, which primarily is some sort of, clemency. And then secondarily, Kenya does not have the death penalty. And the sovereign rights of Kenyan citizens apply. So trying to evoke that she is a Kenyan citizen, can we punish her according to our laws? Or at least the second request was really about repatriation.
And then the question would be, if at all this repatriation were to be successful, is there a possibility of retrial, if we're going to look at it in the Kenyan context? And of course, if this is determined in court and perhaps the court finds her in a way innocent, or perhaps she has a case, do you suppose that then we take a different approach? And then what would be the equivalent penalty as to what then Vietnam is doing, that is death by hanging, in comparison to what we have in the country?
Yeah, so those are 3 different questions. So let me finish the other 2 layers. The other one is more of social pressure. So you're seeing a lot of Kenyans online. There's an appeal by the family, which apparently had been trying to get people to pay attention to this matter, even though they were in the dark until a communication was made again to the twin sister, who communicated to the mother that, hey, this is what has happened. She is being tried for this and she's scheduled to hang. They came in much later. The final layer, which is now what you're asking about, is really the way forward. Because one, this formal appeal has been made, and it's a written document.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing about it is that the Deputy Foreign Minister, who has authority to speak on behalf of the President and the nation of Vietnam, has said that it is being considered. That's a good thing, because the first request, which is sort of a preliminary legal issue, is to have the execution stayed.
Okay.
So you're mixing legal, political, diplomatic, now social pressure and all kinds of things. But now to answer your question, you can see some wheels already rolling.
Right.
A lot of her side of the story had not been heard. So there's been all kinds of rumors and innuendo and people just speculating. Some people say she traveled by bus to Ethiopia. Some people say she took a plane. There are all kinds of, different versions. One which says she was completely innocent. Another one which said she was partially aware of what was going on. She was engaged in a transaction where she was to be paid 167,000 shillings by a person who's now been named. And I believe the authorities have caught up with that person, and they have commenced that investigation to answer some part of your question. A person who keeps coming up, John Joroge. But now there's a third version of the story which would suggest she was fully complicit. So until that investigation is done, nobody really knows. The answer to your question about the equivalent penalty, in Kenya it would have to be a life sentence, because we do no longer practice capital punishment.
Right.
It was ruled against human law. But remember, the first request being prior to repatriation is clemency. They are appealing to that. So if the government on the other side offers clemency, then it's not incumbent upon the government of Kenya, or the obligation to do that,
right.
is removed unless the onus is still on the Kenya authorities to determine what to do. The long and short of the story is that her side of the story is yet to be fully heard, but preliminary investigations, of course, have to commence once a matter reaches this level of publicity. And there seems to be a lot of traction, because now we know other people that were involved in that particular transaction, and the primary person I believe, is in the hands of the authority.
Okay. I had some guests here yesterday who argue that perhaps we haven't gotten it right when it comes to the question of our diplomacy and our foreign policy. We'll take a quick short break and then we come back to you, perhaps in a minute or two. You tell us whether you think that as a country we need to rethink our foreign policy.
By all means.
All right, after this break.
Coming up after the break. Bizarre swollen stomach. Woman seeks help to treat her swollen stomach in Nyandarua.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it, or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes.
should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget, regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
Governance and security expert John Kinuthia is here with us as we unpack the Nduta case and what are the possibilities of us as a country managing to convince the Vietnam government to get her home so that she can undergo trial according to the Kenyan standards. So here we are, our foreign policy. What do you make of it? Do you think we should rethink it?
Foreign policy is a very technical and also very, very comprehensive craft. It usually requires a lot of forethinking, foreplanning. You need usually a strategy, and behind that strategy should be very sound principles informed by the vision that we have for how we should relate with our neighbors and those who are near and far, and also by the mission that we have. We've seen in previous years that Kenya is very influential in the world. We've had a seat in the UN Security Council. We've had a very influential diplomats at all levels, the UN ambassador, the US ambassador, the ambassadors to most of the G7, G20 countries. We've had a very comprehensive foreign policy. The challenge comes in 3 ways. One, I've already hinted at it, when you don't have a proactive strategy that you preempt issues before they come.
Right.
So we do notice that to some extent our foreign policy is very reactive. It comes in retrospect after the fact, after something has happened. But also in some ways, not very deliberate in terms of foreplanning and the structural arrangements. For example, in this particular case, we're talking about a country where we do not have diplomatic representations. We don't have an embassy. We don't have the staffing that an embassy usually requires.
And this is something that most Kenyans realize at this very stage. And one wants to ask, why is it the case? I mean, what informs for a country to have an embassy in a certain country and not to have an embassy in a certain country?
Sure. Diplomatic relations are very complex. Initially, they are based on alliances, especially after a war, depending on which side a country was aligned to. So when you talk about the Western countries, Kenya has enjoyed very good relationships with the Western countries. There's a time that became a bit, thawed. And for example, you had a foreign diplomat come and say that elections have consequences. And then after that, you noticed we drifted off from the Western sort of close ties to sort of ties in Asia and other places. We had a more broad spectrum foreign policy in terms of hedging our bets with different superpowers. The Russians, the Chinese, the BRICS sort of alliance, as well as NATO alliance. Recently, we've seen Kenya go back more to the Western alliance. So some of the diplomatic relationships will come from, for example, the US was involved in a war in Vietnam. So you'll notice the countries that have diplomatic relationships with Vietnam, bilateral, so to speak, which means it's a two-way street, will usually be countries that in one way took one side or the other. So due to that and many other consequences and our alliances and the complex nature of politics and leadership at a geopolitical global stage, you find that we will have embassies. Even they don't have an embassy here.
Yeah.
So now the second part is usually diplomatic relationships can be triggered by events. This event certainly will trigger a diplomatic relationship. And if there's goodwill on both sides, will culminate usually in a two-way relationship. For example, you do hear that there was a former president who made a call to somebody he knows. So geopolitical relationships have a mix of personal and then leadership and then historical ties and geopolitical issues that affect. Long short of it is, ideally, a country should have diplomatic representation everywhere, but factors like trade, security, economics, a lot of factors do sort of go into the decision. Do we have sufficient interest in this country to have a diplomatic presence there, and do they have those with us? The other flip side of the coin is that the breaking down of diplomatic relationships is usually even as serious as a signal of impending war. So when you recall your ambassador to a certain country, or you chase away some country's ambassador, we just saw, you know, some interesting dynamics between the US and the South Africans, where the US has kicked out the South African ambassador, or said he's no longer welcome. So those dynamics, diplomatic relations are super sensitive, but when they are latent and stalled and quiet, like they've been between Kenya and Vietnam, it's almost easy not to notice we don't have that kind of relationship. But this sort of event will trigger some sort of quest towards formal diplomatic relationships.
All right, it is a developing story, and we'll certainly be here to follow the same, just to make sure that you are updated. John Kenneth here, governance and security expert, as well as the executive chairperson, chief executive strategies and solutions. Asante sana for the great quick insights as to this matter. As I have said, we continue following on the same and the developments of the same to keep you posted. Now, the government has issued a stern warning to private healthcare providers who turn away patients intending to access outpatient services. The government, through the Ministry of Health, says such healthcare facilities will face severe consequences, that is including the denial of registration with the Social Health Authority. This story was produced by Alvin Kidiji and voiced by Joash Onsari.
Health Principal Secretary Harry Kimutai has warned private health facilities that deny patients outpatient services, saying they risk being denied their licenses renewal.
But they should not blackmail the government. They should not blackmail citizens by stopping offering of services. If they continue like this, it is obvious. They are also subject to renewal of license. So if you are not compliant, we also say, okay, fine. You offer service. You don't want to offer service to Kenyan in accordance with the Kenyan constitution, in the Kenyan laws, then close shop. That's not the right business that you are supposed to.
Last month, the facility suspended the services, citing unpaid NHIF arrears, an unworkable outpatient reimbursement model, and government inaction in addressing persistent challenges. The health facilities wanted 10 billion Kenya shillings owed to them by SHA and Medical Administrators Kenya Limited, which serves teachers and police officers.
On the side of SHA, I want to say that SHA is up to date. We are preparing to pay claims, and we have already paid part of the claims of February.
Anybody who accesses primary health care in all government facilities, level 2, level 3, and level 4 for outpatient, as long as you're a SHA member, I'm not talking about payment, government of Kenya is catering for you.
They spoke during the rollout of the Health Management Information System in Embu County, where healthcare administrators were urged to embrace the new digital structure to achieve universal health coverage. The government has insisted that the challenges raised on SHA are being addressed. Joash Onsare, TV47.
And now, a 41-year-old mother of 3 from Kiambogo village, Kipipiri, Nyandarua County, is battling a rare and unexplained stomach swelling that has left her unable to walk properly, sleep, or care for her children. And as Violet Auma reports, Kezia Nyambura Macharia is now pleading for help to undergo life-saving surgery at Kenyatta National Hospital.
For Kezia Macharia, every day and every step she takes is a battle against intense discomfort. Just a few years ago, she was a hard-working mother, providing for her family and raising her children. But today, her life is a sharp contrast of what it once was.
Hii tupu ni kubwa sana na tena inakuwaga ni situ kabisa na inakuwaga na stress sana hata nikilala kuamuka ni shida.
What started as a small bulge in 2020 has since grown into a mysterious condition, turning her life upside down. Even doctors are struggling to find answers.
Usiku silali, mimi hata nikitoka nje niende choo, watu wanasimama tu kuniangalia.
After several hospital visits, doctors found that the swelling came from her uterus and a surgery is the only solution, but she cannot afford it.
Nikaenda Nakuru, nikapimwa na nikatumwa Kenyatta. Sasa mimi sina pesa na sina bere, sina nyuma, mimi naomba usaidizi.
The pain and exhaustion has left her unable to take care of her children, forcing them to stay with their grandmother. Holding back tears, Kezia expresses her deepest wish to receive treatment and be reunited with her children. Every day that passes brings her more pain and struggle. Now, Kezia turns to the kindness of Kenyans, hoping for a second chance at life.
Unisaidie nipate pesa niende hospitali hii ugonjwa iniondoke.
Violet Auma, TV47.
Well, we certainly hope that she gets help that is needed. Now, the government is committed to implementing far-reaching reforms to ensure that the police service is motivated, well-resourced and professional. President William Ruto has pointed out that there is a demonstrable progress in the modernization of police equipment. And of course, he spoke when he received the end-term report of the Second National Police Service Commission at State House, Nairobi. That is on Monday. The commission was appointed in March 2019 for a 6-year non-renewable term. And as part of the new changes, officers will now be able to access treatment at any facility of their choice under the Taifa Care and the Universal Health Coverage Program.
The recommendations outlined in this report will be taken seriously. As part of our housing program, we have rolled out a program on ensuring that we have institutional houses that will be funded by our housing levy resources. Under the current expanded universal health coverage in the Taifa Care program, there will be expanded access. In fact, access to medical care will no longer be limited to certain identified hospitals. In fact, officers and servicemen and women will be able to access medical services and attention from all hospitals, public, private, faith-based.
And now to business news. The government is exploring the construction of a new airport that is through a public-private partnership, and that is an arrangement with an estimated cost of 258 billion shillings. Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir revealed that the proposed development is aimed at addressing the increasing passenger traffic at Nairobi's airport. The project seeks to enhance the city's status as a key regional aviation hub, fostering economic growth and connectivity, and as the country continues to experience a rise in air travel demand.
Framework that JKI can leverage on its balance sheet, invite cost-effective or the cost of money that is fairly competitive, that can return on investment in terms of the cost of capital, and develop for us a new airport. In terms of competitive advantage for Kenya comparing with other regions who have gone ahead of us and developed modern airports, we need to attract the numbers. We don't want visitors coming to Kenya to come through our neighboring as hubs. We really want to take that advantage. And looking at the horizon on the numbers we need to be servicing in a short while, the building of a new airport is active, an active agenda at Cabinet. We are looking at policies on investments which can support themselves as a business, really being able to do more of PPP as opposed to building on a social capital on our balance sheet.
And we are glad to see that already a lot of progress has been done since we were here on 31st of January 2025. And we want to commend all the teams that are working towards improving the airport experience. And we really want to work together with all the stakeholders.
And our President William Ruto has feted African Development Bank President Dr. Akinwumi Adesina as a Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart for his role in pioneering sustainable economic growth in the region. President Ruto further commended the AFDB president for his role in promoting the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, that is through the building of essential infrastructure projects. And business owners and traders across the country have been urged to adopt technology and innovation to enhance sustainability and expand market opportunities for their products. Speaking in Kakamega ahead of the highly anticipated Kakamega Trade Expo, the event organizer, that is Josephat Nyongesa, emphasized the key focus of the event, that is in supporting MSMEs by linking them with larger corporations and enabling them to explore advanced marketing strategies and tap into wider markets.
Like, how can we remain on the market? How can we not get out of business? You realize that you can start a business today, and if you are not innovative enough, if you are not doing innovative marketing, if you are not doing innovative production, you will not last in that kind of business.
Because Kakamega guests have always been transferred to Kisumu and Eldoret. So we look forward to meet with other exhibitors and to also network for the benefit of the region.
We will be showcasing our products, like we have the water pumps, we have the irrigation designs that we will showcase on that day. We also have our solar lights connected with the batteries and everything.
All right, that's all we had for the business news. And now the king, or perhaps the latest updates, the King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima Zogweta have arrived in the country. And the royals are in the country for a 4-day tour. And that is, of course, Netherlands, looking at the bilateral operations between them and the country. Say they are a leading destination of horticulture exports, buying almost a third of the crops, as well as closely followed by the United Kingdom, France, and the United Arab Emirates. And of course, we are awaiting to see what then will pan as to this great and significant visit to the country. And we'll be here to make sure that we give you the updates as to what then the 4 days of the King and the Queen in the country will mean. Earlier on, that is around at 9 p.m., they had just landed at the JKIA, received by the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, that is Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki. And of course, they will be proceeding to meet the President for this bilateral agreement and these bilateral updates. And we'll be here to make sure that we give you the updates of this particular visit. All right, we get sporty.
Sports News brought to you by Maybets. Join Maybets leo upate free bet papo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako. Chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybets. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia.
Straight to it, and Harambee Stars head coach Benny McCarthy has unveiled his 23-man squad that is set to travel to Abidjan to lock horns with Gambia in a Group F World Cup qualifier match. The squad features only 5 locally based players, notably the omission of current league MVP and Gor Mahia's talisman Austin Odhiambo. Budhai striker Michael Olunga is expected to captain the squad, and of course with players like Ishmael Gonzalez making their return to the squad. Kenya currently sits in 4th place with 5 points after 4 outings, with the winners of each group securing automatic qualifications into the 2026 World Cup.
Gambia match on the 20th for the World Cup qualification. That is our first priority, so hopefully we can get a team ready and to go out there and fight and just bring proud to the Kenyan nation. And then we build on from there to Gabon, and then hopefully we're on a good path, on a good way to fulfill the ultimate dream, and that's, salvage the group stages and hopefully that you can catch Ivory Coast at number 1. But it's going to be hard work, but I think the talent and the quality that the team have speaks for itself. So, it's just a matter of time.
Wasigishu Junior School and Testimony Junior School were crowned champions of the Junior NBA Rift Valley Regional Finals held on Sunday at the Wasingishu School Courts in Eldoret. In the boys category, the home team Wasingishu edged out Testimony Junior School, that is from Kesses, with a hard-fought 13-11 win thanks to a clutch buzzer beating layup by Daniel Mwangi, the final second, to seal the victory. Meanwhile, in the girls' contest, Testimony Junior School, led by coach Barry Wycliffe, beat Wasingishu Junior School in a 1-point thriller, clinching the title by 18 points to 17. The winner from both teams walked away with smartphones and airtime, while each team that participated in the tournament also got basketball courtesy of the NBA Africa.
I feel excited having my teams in the finals. It is something we've been working for. Though we've not been working for M-Pesa, but for this junior NBA, we've just been training, running an academy. So we are grateful that it has paid off.
We majorly worked on defense, because when you master defense or when you master the acts of defense, it will work for you. So defensive-wise, we were doing great. So defense was rewarding itself. Scoring now became easy because they were not scoring, but you were outrunning them on offense. That's why we managed to score and we became the top.
For them to come and compete and stand tall with teams that have facilities and teams that are well prepared, I really thought that the competition was balanced. Going forward, as they continue to adapt, they started having their own facility, I believe that we'll see much better competition.
Kipipiri FC thrashed Daragwa FC 6-5 on post-match penalty shootouts to emerge the winners of the Badilicious Super Cup, which concluded on Sunday at Oljoro Orok Stadium in Nyandarua County. The hard-fought final between the two teams ended in a barren draw after 120 minutes of play, forcing the game to head into penalties, where Kipipiri were crowned champions and secured a 500,000 cash prize, while the runners-up, Daragwa FC, were awarded 300,000 Kenya shillings.
Tournament imekuwa poa, hatuwezi lalamika. Officiating imekuwa sawa. Teams zimejitayarisha zote, so governor akiendelea na hiyo moyo wa kupea watu hii game, kuletea watu tournament. Hakuna kitu kingine inashikanisha wachezaji ama youths kama sports.
Ya kwanza ni kushukuru governor kwa kazi mzuri ambayo anafanya kwa youth. Kwa hiyo department ya youth amefanya kazi muhimu sana. Mpira ndio kitu, it is the only ndio kitu factor mkuu sana ambayo inashikanisha vijana. So akiendelea hivyo vijana watatoka kwa drugs na Nyandarua County itakuwa in a good position ya kulea talents kwenda mpaka KPL.
Washika tutaweka pamoja, tutawapea training ya talanta zao zote, iwe ni mbio, iwe ni uzungumzaji, iwe ni drama, iwe ni utangazaji, iwe ni jambo lolote lile ambalo tuna talanta, ili wao pia wapate nafasi ya kujilisha.
And Newcastle United won their first ever domestic trophy after 70 years following a 2-1 win over Liverpool on Sunday night to clean.
Sports News brought to you by Maybets. Join Maybets leo upate free bet papo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako. Chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybets. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply.
In various quarters of leadership continues to be questioned. This evening, we want to look at the place of deputies, perhaps capitalizing much on the place of deputy governors. And this evening, we're delighted to have Honorable Stephen Munania, that is Deputy Governor of Murang'a County, as well as Honorable Francis Mwangangi, Deputy Governor Machakos. And to help us, put them to question, which is also very, very important, is political risk analyst, that is Dismas Mukua. And of course, as we get into this very contentious conversation, if you'd want to say, because for the longest of time, we have asked ourselves just where is the place of deputies. If you want to look at, deputy of the president, of course, we have seen what has played out in the country. We want to look at, deputy governors as well. We continue to question just what is their role. They themselves have come out to say that they sort of feel like, they are being underutilized based on the roles that they are accorded to by the government. And we already have some feedback coming from you. Let's just get to hear what you have to say. And of course, that will get us to the conversation. And not so fast, the Court of Appeal reinstated the former Wajir Governor Mohamed Abdi Mohamud, who had been impeached and replaced by his Deputy Governor Nelson Harun. That is us being reminded of history, which has not been long gone, you know. And correctly followed, Mwangaza should learn a lesson to stop being, well, of course, to practice nepotism and corruption, making her husband to run county business. Dismark Obondi, interesting. Do we have more? Of course, we'll be taking more as we continue with the broadcast. One of the reasons why we're having this conversation tonight is, of course, appreciating what has played out in Meru County, and officially Mutuma, you know, who was the deputy governor, then sworn in as the current governor. What does this mean? Knowing very well that, you know, the previous governor, that is Kawira Mwangaza, still has a window to go to the Court of Appeal as well as the Supreme Court. What would it mean if she is to challenge this successfully? Allow us to take a quick short break, and then we come back with the gentleman for that and more.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Aurora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it, or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Just for normal routine maintenance.
And gentlemen, after introducing you, I think it is time for us to get to hear your voices. And you know, I begin by asking the deputy governors, did they attend the swearing in of their fellow deputy governor? I mean, you know the way you invite, a president would invite another president for their swearing in. Mheshimiwa,
yes.
Will you attend ceremony?
Very interesting conversation to begin with.
Okay.
But first of all, let me congratulate His Excellency Isaac Mutuma,
right.
The new governor of Meru County. And this is a political triumph for the people of Meru.
Yeah.
Because I do believe that there have been various challenges, because every now and then when a government staggers and stumbles, the people who get the blunt of that stumbling are the people who get the services.
Okay.
And so congratulations to His Excellency Governor Reverend Isaac Mutuma,
Okay.
the new governor of Meru. Personally, I was not able to attend the function, largely because, you know, as deputies to begin with, we have a responsibility to support our governors. And so our responsibilities on day-to-day are based on those functions.
Okay.
And those functions are very important because a county requires its governance, and that seat cannot be empty. And that governance structure needs to be maintained so that for the smooth running of the county.
Okay.
And so we do congratulate him, but we were ably represented by the chair of the Deputy Governor's Caucus Forum. His Excellency Kamuri is the Deputy Governor of Laikipia. He was present and he was able to represent the Deputy Governors, and the entire caucus sent their congratulations. And we are happy for him.
Okay, interesting. Is it too early to congratulate based on the message that at least we have seen and perhaps the history that has played out in the country? Too early to congratulate him, or it's a done deal?
Well, I'm not sure whether congratulating him is a material item, but it's to ask ourselves where has been Meru for the last 2.5 years.
Right.
And I think the Meru people have been unfortunate for the last 2 years. They've been, I mean, if you have to go with what the Meru County Assembly has indicated, that the people in Meru and Kenyan taxpayers at large, they've been exposed to impunity, mediocrity, and corruption, all of them rolled into one. And students of political science, applied politics, and leadership will find a very good case study in Kawira Mwangaza on how not to run any public sector unit. There are so many things. Like, for instance, one can easily say that she excelled in one of what the feedback from one of the members of the audience in nepotism, in lack of leadership, lack of innovation. And she was a populist leader. She knew how to manipulate people. And that one, she did a very good job. In fact, majority of politicians in Kenya wish that they had 10% of political capacity. Because, you know, she scores an A in manipulating people. But now, Kawira Mwangaza's leadership skills invite us to look at the role of the public service. And studies have been done all over the world. Scholars, practitioners, politicians have come to an agreement that you need 3 qualities in the public sector. Number 1, you need meritocracy. It's very clear from the Meru County Assembly that this leader did not have meritocracy, nor respect meritocracy. Number 1 is integrity. Number 2, integrity and innovation. If those 3 pillars, and one would say that is a 3-legged stool, are missing anywhere in a leadership position, then the country is set for failure. And we need to see those things, meritocracy, integrity, and innovation, be it in the judiciary, the legislature, and also the national government and county governments. So if we use this example of now Meru to look at Kenya as a whole, right now there are conversations that which have been brought, there are petitions which have been taken to the Judicial Service Commission that a number of Supreme Court judges need to go home. But the way you see the Judicial Service Commission handling those petitions, you immediately begin to suspect that there is a lack of meritocracy. Because taking the example of Justice Lenaola, he's been requested to answer 2 questions about a judgment. That one, he did not participate in crafting that judgment. He was not in that bench. Then you're asking yourself, is there meritocracy in that decision-making process? Now, let's go to integrity. The way the former governor, Kawira Mwangaza, ran Meru, you start looking for meritocracy with a spotlight, the powerful searchlight in the world. You do not find it. She's very condescending in her approach to issues. Even when she's addressing critical issues, instead of looking at the merits and the merits of the case, she quickly says that I'm under persecution because I'm a woman.
And do you suppose that wasn't the case based on, and we followed the proceedings. even at the level of the, you know, of Senate, just to see some of the clips that were played, and even following the proceedings today, you know, listening to the leaders of Meru speaking, you know, and the utterances they made. Do you suppose that her argument would be baseless in any way?
Arguments were informed by misinformation and disinformation. Using an example not related to when somebody steals a cow, it's not a female thief or a male thief. You are looking for a thief. So it doesn't matter whether you are male or female. If you've stolen a cow, we are looking for a thief. Now, people always clutch on straws when they are unable to deliver. In fact, majority of people in Kenya today, most leaders, when they are unable to deliver, today they're going to blame Raila Odinga for the handshake. Others are going to blame President Ruto. Others are going to blame Rigathi Gachagua. People will look for all manner of excuses. But when you look at the material issues, like for instance, one of the accusations was that she got one of the relatives to be a bodyguard. I mean, that's the definition of nepotism. So in my view, all leaders in Kenya must look at Kawira Mwangaza and find out what are the lessons? Because if you don't do that, there's going to be a repeat occurrence. And even if you come from Mosocho or Elwak Mandera, you must have an interest in Meru, because Meru County government is funded by taxpayers' interest. That is why I've got an interest in Francis and Stephen. Because while they come from Machakos and Murang'a, but they are funded by taxes from Mosocho. So Murang'a from Mosocho, Alima must develop a very specific interest on how all county governments are run and how they misuse or use resources.
And 2 or 3 things that come out of this. Of course, one would want to question is what, you know, Kawira Mwangaza was accused of. Basically, you know, some of the allegations that are playing out in different other counties in the country. And like you rightfully say, maybe the leaders should actually pick you and understand that, well, it's not all rosy if they're going to continue with the same manner or in the same manner. Another thing, you speak about Lenaola, perhaps not to go into the details of that. We have seen judges, we have seen, you know, prosecutors recusing themselves from cases they have been handling, and the cases are taken up by other leaders. What would be so difficult of Lenaola perhaps, you know, pronouncing himself in a case that maybe he has been following on or following up on the peripheries? And last but not least, we'll be coming to you to respond to all those things. Yes, there's that Lenaola and perhaps what is happening in the numerous other counties, and that element of the accusations that were leveled against Kawira Mwangaza, and basically the clips that we have talked about, you know, that were, you know, you could almost tell that these are right, you know, like this is right targeting and perhaps insulting of the governor. And one then would want to ask, it looks like this county has been, you know, governed by men and women of God. Aren't these Siamese twins, or are they not supposed to be so? You know, the governor and their...
You know, there is
let's allow Mheshimiwa Francis to come in, and then gentlemen will be coming to you shortly. Mheshimiwa, good evening.
Good evening.
You say you did not proceed to Meru, but we're here. What is the situation like for you with your governor? How is the working relationship? Even as you say jambo to the people.
Okay. First, thank you. And upon seeing your topic tonight, I felt I'm among the right persons to be here.
Yeah, thank you for
because
the call.
In the Deputy Governors Forum, I whipped them. So the first time I heard about this, I placed a call to my chairman. We discussed, but when we will come to the topic, I think we will do justice to the topic. Now, to the issue of Meru and then Machakos. If it is today, I want to pick where my colleagues have left. If what has been exhibited in Meru today is anything to go by, if that was the interest of the Meru people, because we know what has been happening since the election, from where I sit, if that will bring unity, if that will bring harmony, if what has happened today will bring progress to Meru County, so be it.
Which you think has lacked?
Yes, because if you remember, it is not the first time Her Excellency, the former governor, was taken to Senate. And every time, first she was forgiven and given directives. Please go back and bring leaders together. Please go back and don't tend to think you are only elected as a governor. There was a deputy who deputizes you. Please go and bring harmony between the executive and the county assembly of Meru. And even other leaders. Today, everybody else from Meru, from the national government to the county itself, was in attendance of today's event. That tells you something. That sends certain message.
All right.
And we, in the position of leadership, we should be ready to be held to account.
All right.
Now, the issue of Machakos, we are working well with my boss.
Okay.
There is only one governor elected in Machakos, and that is none other than Excellency Wavinya Ndeti. I know that. I know my place. She knows her place. I'm not there to undermine her, but to support her, so that if she succeeds, I succeed.
Right.
If she fails, I'm part of the failure.
And I have my question. Are you people not supposed to be Siamese twins, to be honest?
But from where I sit, as much as Machakos is okay, from where we sit as the leadership of Deputy Governors Forum, allow me to say, over 94% of the counties in the Republic, it is only that they do not want to bring chaos or their disagreements in public.
Trouble.
There's a problem with the devolution.
Interesting.
There's a problem in devolution.
Okay.
So from where I sit, we need to fix it as a country. Either my proposal, we do away with the issue of deputy governors, or we restructure it in a way that there is going to be harmony. Remember,
is harmony the problem, or maybe?
Remember, the current Meru governor, Reverend Mutuma, has been relegated to periphery.
Right.
He wasn't at all involved in counter affairs.
Okay.
Yet, his name was in the ballot box. What does that? Does it mean he contributed nothing? Does it mean he was meant to be there to be seen and not to be heard? A lot leaves devolution in Kenya to be desired.
And we come back to that. I know you want to respond. Yes, as you come in, Muhesh, you also tell us what is the relation. I mean, every time someone comes on set, they're talking about how Murang'a is doing a good job. Oh, the governor of Murang'a is doing a good job. Sometimes you don't get to hear the mention of the name of the deputy. What's the situation like? What's the relationship between you and your governor? And what do you make of the processes at that level of Murang'a County in terms of serving the people?
You know, Murang'a is famous for its motto, Kamuigi Koya Gadiri. It's a Kikuyu saying that says that together we can be able to lift even the biggest of the burden.
Okay.
That's umoja ni nguvu. That's the direct translation of that saying, and it's the motto of the county. And that's the motto that we have adopted together with my governor, Dr. Irungu Kang'ata. And our business since the day we were elected has been very simple.
Yeah.
Ensuring that the promises we did make to the people of Murang'a are kept to the letter.
Okay.
I usually joke, I remember I was here again and I said that I have a small plaque in my office.
Okay.
And that plaque, we ensure that it is also in the governor's office, that clearly states, this is what we promised the people of Murang'a. Number 1 is issuance of insurance, Kang'ata Care. Number 2 is school feeding program. Number 3 is ensuring minimum guaranteed returns. And number 4, ensuring that the community projects distribute resources across the county.
Okay.
And that working relationship between the governor and the deputy is as simple. Understanding the issues that are constitutional, legal, and other issues are political and relationship. The issues that are constitutional are simple. That the governor is elected with an executive mandate of the county.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. Regardless whether I brought in how many votes, 1 or 100,000. But the governor who is elected His Excellency, the governor who is elected, has the sole executive mandate.
Okay.
The deputy governor comes in to deputize him, to assist him in that job. He is the primary assistant to the governor to be able to assist him.
So the government engages you actively? You would say?
Yes.
Okay.
In Murang'a, we are engaged actively in both administrative governance or even political administration.
You see yourself going all like the entire time together?
Yes, the entire time together.
Right.
I think we already halfway, and we are not on each other's throats, and I don't expect us to get there.
All right.
But it's also very important for us to be able to understand the history of devolution and the history of why governorship usually have deputies.
Okay.
And I want to challenge you to look at not only now in the Kenyan devolved system, but also across the world. If you look at the United States, the system where you have governors and then you have lieutenant governors. The position of the governor, you are elected and you have a direct mandate from the people to be able to articulate the issues that they bring to you.
Okay.
And then the lieutenant governor is there in case he is the one who is the second in line to succeed the governor in case of anything that happens,
right.
Which is the case in our constitution or in our devolved system here in Kenya. But then again, you have to look at things very differently. What are these I'm calling diplomatic and relationship issue? If, for example, there are issues that you cannot legislate via a constitution or via the National Assembly or the Senate, you cannot relate whether I have respect for you or not.
Okay.
And the challenge you are seeing in devolution right now, whether the problem you are seeing between in the national government between the president and his deputy, and you saw the impeachment process, because impeachment is a political process.
Okay.
Whether you are seeing across the counties where you see governors and their deputies on each other's roads, there are issues you cannot legislate. If I cannot give you respect, and I cannot give you the office that you are elected respect, and provide the necessary support that is supposed to, what do you expect?
This is coming from the horse's mouth. And
these are some of the issues that...
And Mahesh will be coming to that.
Yes.
We have the devolution coming. And we really need to understand this. But allow me to loop in Erudisma so that he can weigh in on the questions that I had earlier on highlighted, so that then when we swing into this and understanding devolution and the roles of the deputy governors, then we are in synchrony.
Well, in the matter of Justice Lenaola, it's about Dari Raphael Tuju, a matter that he actually did not participate. He did not author the judgment. Right. He was not a member of the panel. So one wonders whether or not the Judicial Service Commission was competent in asking him to answer questions for something he has not performed at all. Now, when you're talking about governors and their deputies, then one has to look at Articles 180, 181, and 182. And the role of a deputy governor is largely borrowed from the U.S. Constitution, whereby you've got a deputy governor.
Right.
And if one has to call a spade, from the U.S. Perspective, a deputy governor is supposed to sit pretty and wait for a vacancy to occur in that office.
Okay.
Yeah, that is supposed to be the role of a deputy governor. Or even a deputy governor, under the circumstances in context.
Okay.
But the challenge is, a number of our deputy governors, because of their political capital, a number of them actually consider themselves to be co-governors. So a number of them even demand, they say, I brought in about 50% of the votes, or even more. I got in 60% of the votes, so I also want part of the administration. So a number of the deputy governors make their bosses extremely nervous.
Okay.
That in the course of the 5 year, or even before the end of the 5 year, they're going to work with the cartels and special interest groups and kick them home. Most of the deputy governors, as we speak today, they are bleeding, they are suffering. It's only that they don't have guts to come and speak.
They are speaking.
Yeah, most of them hardly access their offices. Most of them don't even have official cars. The people working those county governments don't pick their calls, so they're just seated pretty. You even remember the matter of Siaya, when there were various orders that the deputy governor must go to office. But understand that he doesn't even know where the office is located. Now, a number of governors also become nervous for no reason. They fear meritocracy because a number of deputy governors are very solid, and in fact, they can assist the governor deliver on their mandates. But they fear meritocracy. Why? They're interested in winning the next election. That is why, if you want to be a successful deputy governor, you have to look for the works of former President Daniel Arap Moi and establish how he survived for 24 years as a deputy
or read
president.
the entire 48 laws of power.
Yeah, 48 rules of power, they require some technical skills, which a number of deputy governors may not have. Okay. Or number two, they can look for Fatma Achani, the Kwale governor, who is probably the only governor who has done 2 terms, who is probably the only deputy governor who did not make the boss nervous, and who is probably the only deputy governor who got unlimited support from Sally Muvuria when she said that she was going to run.
Yeah.
So the 2 gentlemen on my left, some of their peers, they want instant coffee.
Okay.
They don't want to brew coffee. So as soon as they go to the office, wanasema nilisaidia hiyo kushinda ikiti.
I think there is a...
Give to Caesar what belongs to
Caesar. There is something that maybe we need to look at, which is the political context of how people get elected in Kenya.
Yeah.
And this cannot be looked at governors in isolation. Because you want to look at the national context of devolution. You also want to look at the context of leadership. I remember that during election cycles, you have what you call pre-election bargains and agreements that usually happens. And largely in governor seats, such as is in the presidential race, deputy governors and the governors usually, in most cases, they were competitors in the general election, but then they had pre-election agreement and they joined together in a single ticket under certain terms that they had agreed upon onto coming into the seats. And the initial friction that you saw among governors and their deputies were based on those agreements, either by non-fulfillment or even at some level, those agreements being tossed out. That is one context that you can look at that lens.
Why should we look at this, roadside, we'd want to call them agreements, and overlook what the Constitution says? Basically,
that's where I'm getting to. That's where I'm getting to.
Before you get to
that responsibility is as simple, because it's as important. How you get through the election process is as important in your governance, because that's the relationship that you're talking about. Because remember, the deputy and the governor, they are going to be inseparable in the capacity that the governor and the deputy, they still stand in one ticket. And one succeeds the other. And that's when you look at the law, the line of succession moves from the deputy governor to the speaker of the county assembly. And that is indeed the process that usually goes. Until now, you either have a by-election or you go to the general election. And that is usually the case. So the context that you are looking at here, if we cannot agree on the most basic issues of our relationship and how we are going to work together from a pre-election agreement basis, then how are we going to work together for the next 5 years, me deputizing you in that capacity, if you cannot honor the most basic? Those are the questions that arise from the beginning.
All right.
And so when we move forward...
Yes, Mheshimiwa, I want to cut you short. I want to cut you short because then we have to pay some bills. And I would also want to hear what Honorable Francis has to say. Is the bone of contention largely on this, of course, mistrust that, arises after then, of course, you begin parting ways? Or is it the fact that the Constitution, like you have always said, has not accorded you, specific duties that would be, that would actually justify the reason as to why then we have this particular seat, such that you do not have to sit as flower girls, as one would want to call it, And we take a quick short break, and then we come back on that very note, just to understand why would you even imagine of this seat being scrapped off as opposed to you who is seated there justifying the need for us to have the seat. Okay.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and of course the gentlemen are here to help us, decipher on the subject of the day. This is as to the political position of deputy governors in particular, and of course this by a large extent will flow over to other deputies, talk about the deputy president. And Mugo James here is asking, kindly ask the panelists where Kawira Mwangaza's impeachment leaves the current deputy president politically. I don't know why they asked that, but perhaps you will help us understand some more. He goes ahead to say Kawira Mwangaza had all the time to make peace with his oppressors, to impeachment, and did not redeem herself. Too bad for her. And perhaps, that should say that maybe there can never be an about turn. Maybe the other, upper courts are going to uphold what it is that was declared. So we come back to you, Mheshimiwa. You were saying something briefly before we proceed to Honorable Francis.
I was saying the issue of deputy governors is a largely a political issue. And it's a political position. It has political responsibilities. Yeah. Because regardless whether my counterpart here wants to say that deputy governors should be flower girls, remember that when an impeachment motion comes before the Senate, it also looks at you as having a political responsibility. And I want to point to the case of the deputy governor of who was recently impeached from Kisii. He had a political he was impeached on political grounds. So whether he wants to say that you are a flower girl or not, you still hold responsibility. Right. If anything happens in that county, you are still the deputy CEO of that county. So the responsibility, you cannot have the entire blame and have no responsibility. Okay. And those are the questions that need to be answered. But most importantly, the working relationship between a governor and their deputy should be synonymous with that of a CEO and a CFO in a private organization. Because the governor has very important, he has the sole executive mandate of the county. Okay. But he also requires a hand in terms of running the day-to-day activities of the county. And most of those, some of these, whether they are political, administrative, or governance issues, then the deputy governor should be given the responsibility to be able to articulate and provide that assistance.
Interesting. Honorable Francis, we come to you, and we just want to understand why you would not even imagine, or you would not have wished to argue that perhaps you, as the deputy governors that are on board, have the mandate to justify the existence of this particular set. And if we were to talk about the amendment of the Constitution legislatively, or perhaps through a referendum, what is this one thing that you would want to see adjusted in that clause that speaks about the deputy president, the deputy governors?
I want to be first and foremost request you. My colleague is very sharp But he belongs to a political organization that is very intolerant.
Okay.
Okay? So don't give him a lot of time. Because anything would. Kenyans have a problem
for the fittest.
Unless we believe him as a person.
Okay.
I'm here in my capacity
as the deputy governor
of Moranga.
Okay.
And through UDA. Now, the reason I'm saying so, it is unheard that, I don't belong to a school of thought where I come here and say this. And tomorrow, when I come and Mokua and Stephen are not here, I say another thing.
Change of tone.
President Nelson Mandela once said, any leader who changes his position depending on situation and who he or she is dealing with, that is not a leader who can lead a country. Okay. Or an organization for that matter.
Are you insinuating that...
No, what I'm saying is a part of why this administration is in place is because there was that perception, very strong perception, that the deputy president was being misused, mistreated. And the then deputy president gave a commitment on a national platform that because of what I've gone through, I pray to God to give me this seat. Nobody else will ever go through that under my administration. Where is Gachagua today? That is a story for another day. So, since he belongs to that organization and is committed to it, please don't give him a lot of time.
Okay.
But let me come to the point. But that is on a light note. He's very sharp. He's a very sharp DG. Now, why would I think of scrapping DG's position as opposed to
protecting
to Kenyans
and justifying
why it should exist? From where I sit, there are so many various reasons why we have a devolution that seems not to be working for Kenyans. Yet, no country on earth, and I've done research for over 5 years about what I'm about to speak about, on how state building succeeds, on how countries transform. And I've never come across any part of the world that has transformed, that has developed, even petro states, without going decentralization, what is in Kenya today as a devolution. That is something this country must think and rethink on how to finance, on how to structure governance. Now, when it comes to governance, I don't agree with my panelist, Dismas, because as much as we appear to be flower girls, that is not the case. Words of Mother Teresa, she said, you do your duty, I do mine, but together we can do great things. Now, a governor, focused governor, will engage the deputy, and the two leaders will respect one another, bearing in mind the overall mandate of the county rests with the governor, irrespective of whether the type or how you perceive him or her. That is the person mandated to run the county, and you are there to assist. Now, is that what is happening across the counties? That is not the case. Why is it not the case? The following. Number one, this political competition that arises from what Stephen said about during the elections. Maybe I'm running for governorship, and my boss is also running. And then my party does research and sees if we allow Mwangangi and Wavinya to run separately, then these older people, they have a strong candidate and they will carry the day. What do? We sit them down,
right?
They agree, and we mediate on how we will do once you people you are in power. And sometimes even they go to an extent of even putting it down in writing. Once they are in power, the whole thing changes. Because there is what is in the Constitution, and there is what we agreed separately with the leadership of the party or leadership of the professionals from that county or the rest of the leaders from that county. That is one of the major sources of conflict.
And so how then do we move now to make sure
secondly,
that yes.
Secondly, some people, I might be the governor, and I have a serious and aggressive deputy.
Okay.
So
a deputy you have known throughout the process,
yes,
the campaign process, the electioneering process.
Yes. If one William Ruto was not aggressive and focused, he will not be the president of Kenya today. Take that one to bank.
Okay.
If he started to take tea in Karen and not to engage Kenyans from across the country, I can tell you he's not going to.
So it's in the right place of a deputy to be aggressive.
It's a part of the political freedom for you to associate.
My friend, politics is about interest. If you have no political capital, I have no business doing with you.
Okay.
Okay? And that capital might be know-how, might be mobilization skills, might be what you know, and it can aid in transforming the county, those kind of things.
So how do we have deputies that are strong enough to manage their activities and ensure that we safeguard as well the governor's office so that, again, we do not have a rift that eventually will cost the taxpayer?
It is simple. Please know your role, know your place. Engage, communicate.
Isn't that what this must be saying?
Actually, that is the point I was making.
Right.
Let me tell you, without communication, everything will go south.
Okay.
Without understanding who you are as a deputy, then you will fight for non-existence issues.
Okay.
Immediately, as a boss, I see you as a threat. What happens in the county? I will direct my people, because as a governor, I'm the appointee of all these people. And if at all my deputy brought some, you will know how to deal with them.
Okay.
And you will find at the end of the day, you are out there and probably fighting from outside when you are an insider.
Interesting.
Yes.
Now, Francis has crystallized the problem. And I'm glad that earlier on you mentioned the 48 rules of power. The first rule says, never outshine your boss. So if you are a deputy, whether you're a deputy president or a deputy governor, indeed a deputy anywhere, the moment you outshine your boss, be ready for bare knuckle politics. So if you're going to outshine your boss in any forum, be it in the corporate world, be it in the political space, you must be ready to fight hard battles. Then number two, you must conceal your intentions. Everybody knows that a part of the reason why you're a deputy governor is you're waiting for a vacancy, and there are several reasons as to why a vacancy will occur. Then you rise to the top position, because it's unlikely that an ambitious politician would even find his way or a way to a room where people are negotiating who is going to be a running mate. And you remember it's Masinde Muliro who said that if you don't have ambitions, you have no business being in the political space.
Okay.
But you can have those ambitions and you temper them, you conceal them, if you care to read the 48 rules of power. Everybody knew that Fatuma Achani at some stage wanted to be the governor. But you know, she said, for these 10 years, I'm going to remain loyal to the governor. And when he's done, I'm going to declare my interest. She secured interest. Everybody knew that Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi wanted to become president. But for 24 years, he was visited with mischief. As a vice president, his vehicle is stopped by policemen. He's harassed. You know, people literally, insulting left, right, and center. You recall he was referred to as a passing cloud. But those people were surprised that this passing cloud was actually static for 24 years. Now, the way my two friends here are talking about, it appears that their bosses are not threatened by their ambition. We said earlier on, we have 47 counties in Kenya we have 47 deputy governors in Kenya.
Right.
But I doubt whether an average Kenyan can name 3 deputy governors.
Yes.
Because a normal governor today sees the deputy on national TV, they become nervous. Believe you me, this morning, there are a number of governors who had to take medication when they saw Isaac Mutumba being sworn into office, because they saw themselves in that position.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
how do we safeguard this position then of the governor, such that we do not have, such jitters, and again, as well, safeguard the position of the DPs?
Well, I think before Stephen comes in,
we don't have much time.
Yeah. Before Stephen comes in, I would volunteer a suggestion from applied politics, not from theory.
Okay.
Allow the governor
to run the show.
Don't have a running mate for him. Allow him to go to office and appoint a deputy governor.
What about the taxpayer who is paying this deputy governor? Are you just telling the deputy governor to just sit there for the 5 years and we actually do not get to see value for money as taxpayers, just so you do not have this trouble?
Unless now we are going to adopt the American model of Elon Musk and Dodge, there's going to be, we have to prepare for this thing. Because, the question people ask themselves is, what is the cost of having an election in a county?
Okay.
It's going to disrupt a lot of activities. So you'd rather have a deputy governor. But my 2 friends, I did not suggest that we behave like flower girls. No. I suggested that you don't make your boss nervous.
Okay.
But when you make your boss nervous, be prepared not to have a car, be prepared not to have an office, be prepared to be fired while on air, be prepared for so many things.
Or the other way around, where, of course, they are sent to power and their bosses are out.
Yes, you can, but then, a clever deputy governor can actually work in cahoots with the cartels and special interest groups and kick out the governor from office.
Okay.
The conversation from Didmas here.
I want to say one thing.
Yes.
No, allow me to.
In the opening.
We'll come to you. Let's allow him 30 seconds.
During opening statements, I listened to our friend so well. And he said deputy governors should be waiting for their bosses to die. You know that?
No. I said no. I said vacants.
What I want to say.
I did not say that.
No. That was off the cuff.
Success of Governor Wavinya Ndeti in Machakos is my success. Our failure, from a very sincere point of view, it should be my failure. I should always, even as I go to pray, I should also pray for her.
Yeah.
And pray that she succeeds. But from that point of view, I think there is a term here we need to keep on repeating, which my colleagues have overemphasized. Relationship.
Okay.
Because irrespective of what you put in the constitution,
if there's no,
as long as two of you cannot find a chemistry to work, I will tell you there will still be challenges.
Interesting.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, as you come in, what are your expectations out of the broad-based government now that you have adversely been accused of being part of this government? And of course, a part of the 10-point agenda is that they would want to strengthen devolution better.
After the MOU was signed at KICC, the following day, Secretary General for ODM clearly states what it was and what it was not. And from a political coalition perspective, the president is doing what he knows best. The president, because those are his, when you are the president, you have the sole executive mandate. And so does the governors in the county. You have an executive function, and you exercise those executive mandates and authority as you see fit, because you have been given that responsibility by the people of Kenya through the constitution and how you got into office through an election. And so you cannot falter the president. And for me, as a deputy governor representing the good people of Murang'a, through my governor, Dr. Kangata, my expectation haven't changed of the national government.
Okay.
My expectation will always be the strengthening of devolution, that we get the shared revenue from the national government every month without fail. Because once that doesn't come, then the counties are not functioning.
And what would you say about the
because the devolution
so far?
Yes.
The status of county funding.
The status of the county so far is...
and funding in particular.
The funding has usually been a problem because we have to wait for Treasury to release funds, and you wait and you wait and you wait. You are 2 months down the line, you haven't paid salaries, you haven't done this and this. And so you have to be innovative at the county level to provide services.
So there's a lot of
from what I am expecting from the national government is very simple. That strengthening devolution is about strengthening the services provided by the county government. And these are very simple. The people of Murang'a don't care whether there is a broad-based government or not.
Okay.
What they do care about is whether they get medicine in their hospitals. What they do care about is whether the children who goes to every primary school, every ECD center get a cup of uji, or even get adequate education. What they care about is that when next week that we are going to provide fertilizer, we are going to provide maize for them to be able to get into production, that they do get those services from the people from the Department of Agriculture.
Right.
Those are the expectation of the counties. And whether my colleague here wants to say that I am part of the broad-based government, he realizes that one of the most important units to any governor and any deputy governor is the devolved function of a county, which is devoid of the political manipulation of the national government, except for the part of disbursement of funds. But the executive functions and administration in governance, the national government already does policies. And when they do policies that provide us with problems, for example, the problem we have with SHA and Taifa Care, I, as a deputy governor, has a responsibility to tell the national government, we have a problem here. And that is not criticizing. It's about raising a pertinent issue that needs to be fixed. And that's the place where I need to see our government move forward.
Okay, fair enough. Gentlemen, we only have about 4 minutes to be out of this space. You are deputizing a woman. 7 governors, female governors,
That is a very nice question to tackle.
Sorry, you want to talk about
He has not done a serious justice to that question.
All right, so, well, the 2/3 gender role, concern. You want him to respond to that?
No. The earlier question about the bread-based.
Well, he has attempted.
No. You see, you cannot say bread-based.
In the best interest of time, let's just save this. What does this mean?
Came into point with the chapati.
You see.
The 2/3 gender rule, what does it mean? The Kawera concern that we are, having right now. And what are the chances that she would successfully challenge this?
I want the wish of Meru people to be upheld.
Okay.
I have no interest whatsoever in Meru,
other
than the interest of Meru people.
The people.
Today, a very strong message was sent. Today, a very strong message was sent.
They come across as happy?
If there was any split in Meru today, you could have seen maybe half of the leaders or 3/4 of the leaders not attending that function.
Okay.
But by the virtue that almost literally everybody, save for one, wasn't there, then that is a very strong message. From where I sit, I stand to be corrected because I don't come from Meru. But what we expect from my mother and other women in the village.
Yes, as we sum it up.
They call this blood-based government.
Interesting, your view.
I go further to ask them why. They say we still have unaccounted youths, Gen Zs. And many of them we buried. Many of them, we buried them in Kamba soil. Today unresolved. Justifying blood-based. And the government which God allowed to run this country has never attempted to address who killed them, who murdered them, who abducted them.
We put a disclaimer on that blood-based. Does it have to be that bad?
No.
We understand, of course, some of the concerns need to be addressed. But
we shed blood. We shed blood to have this new constitution, right from multipartyism. Kenyans shed blood to have our independence, our freedom. We did not expect post-2010 constitution to continue with that kind of And when I listen to them, I think I tend to some extent, agree with them.
So what we expect... The people of Machakos as well then would be looking at you as the leader to ask these questions, to give us answers to some of these questions. Because while the leadership, you want to view it at that top level, reality is that it's a six-tier affair where we have the president,
there is a question politically. There is a question politically, and I want him to remember. In the last administration, there is a statement that the current president and the then deputy president said that you have a government that is behaving like opposition, and opposition that is behaving to be in government. I don't want to expound on that more than it is. But you see the science in the broad government and how they look as we speak. But in my parting shot, I would like to address only one issue. The young people of this country knows that this nation is theirs. And they are not waiting for anybody to give it to them. And what they are seeking is the responsibility that they are given by the Constitution to go and cast their ballot for the people they feel that they should lead them in 2027. What I would wish the young people of this country to get into the framework of mind in leadership is that they shouldn't see Stephen Munania as the deputy governor, but they should be able to see my ability as a leader in providing those services. And so should they see every other leader, so that we lose the popularism where we have politicians as celebrities, but people who govern with integrity, with dignity, for the purpose of the people of this country. And I would wish the young people of this country to take that mantle and go to the voting with that in mind. Not to see Stephen, but to see the ability of Stephen to deliver for them, to see the ability of Dr. Kangata to deliver for them, for the people of Moranga.
Thank you so much. Let me take this feedback. So just in case there is a question, then we can respond to it. Mr. Director. Let's see what they have to say. I think we are copy-pasting leaders instead of delivering services to citizens while twisting the acts and clauses in the Constitution. Yes. And of course, all right, I believe we should amend our constitution so that when a president or a governor is ousted, they should go together with their deputies. We are operating on bad lands, and currently because the deputy might choreograph to guillotine his master in order to occupy, and that is mine, I think. His space. Wakili Chris says that. Daniel Buluma says, I even can't remember the name of my deputy governor. Sasa sijui kama hawa ni ghost workers ama
I think that's an unfair characterization.
That law that allows deputy governor to assume office automatically after impeachment or death should be abolished. The automatic rule has done a lot of harm than good in our country, because as soon as the governor is sworn into office, then the deputy starts plotting how they can become Governor Antonio Rodriguez.
Allow me to make my final remarks. And I go back from your first question, that we must encourage integrity, innovation, and meritocracy, both in the public service and in the private sector. And that's why a country like Singapore has made a lot of progress, Korea and Japan. Now, when you're talking about people fighting meritocracy, it's not just limited in the political space. Like, for instance, you may have followed the case of Nairobi Hospital, where the chairman, Dr. Chris Bichage, is in trouble for insisting on meritocracy. In fact, one can even venture and say that meritocracy as a subject or as a philosophy or as an element increasingly is becoming an endangered species. The reason why most governors are happy with incompetent people is because they know that when you're...
As their deputies?
As their deputy, they know that they can dance as they so wish and nothing would happen.
You cannot say that in your closing remarks.
Well, unfortunately, you just said so.
No, you cannot just say that in closing remarks. But
you see that.
You see, look at the resumes of deputy governors across the country. You're going to find the most learned professors, doctors, across the country who are well-landed and well-functioned, who came from the private sector.
And therefore, this argument is neither here nor there.
The argument is neither here nor there.
But the incompetence has got nothing to do with academics. Incompetence has nothing to do with academics.
What maybe there lacks is what we call a little bit of political wisdom and diplomatic relationship in both the case of the governor and their deputies. Because remember, what holds leadership together is most largely not your qualification in school, but rather your ability to bring out the best ideas from the people who work for you. And if you cannot be able to do that, that becomes a problem for you politically, in governance, and in service delivery.
And perhaps we need to talk about the electorate, because then if they're going to look at, the choice of the governor, for DP, don't you think they as well have the capability through the ballot to say that perhaps we have looked at the academic credentials or perhaps the operations of this DP, and we do not think that this is a pair that we want to actually have on board, and therefore is it an undoing of the governor or is it an undoing of I don't know what, or maybe the electorate who
the average voter in Kenya and all over the world is emotional and irrational. They abandon logic on the voting day. Yeah, I mean, look at the case of the US. They knew that the reason they were kicking out Biden and Kamala Harris was because of the cost of living. Now you have these tariffs that are occasioning the cost of living, but a majority of them still say Donald Trump is our man.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Yes. One, what we expect for devolution is, Azimio, we were promising 40 to 45% of the total revenue of the country to go to devolution.
Yes.
Our friends, Huda, here, they were promising 30 to 35 because they said we were ambitious. I'm humbly asking them, please, 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 do even the bare minimum of 30%. Number two is...
Mheshimiwa, we have to close.
Yes, from the bread-based government, Kenyans, especially Gen Zs and anyone who does not possess the ID, please go for it and ensure you have a voting.
I think Mheshimiwa here had a note that he had to popularize the name bread-based government before he came to the show.
So here we go.
Yes, and El Chapo.
Thank you so much. And kindly let Deputy Governor Mwangangi explain to Junior Sabuk residents how their revenue benefits Kiambu County and how using a public funds to develop that area is like a misappropriation of funds. Unfortunately, we don't have time for that. I admire what Deputy Governor Muranga had to say. A Deputy Governor, just like the impeached Deputy President, is the main issue that is destabilizing devolution. National government is not spatial over ambitious deputies. And I am Honorable Bonke, youth leader, following live from Machakos. Pass my greetings. Gentlemen, we have to close at that point. We have immense feedback, but unfortunately time would not allow for us to take them all. We appreciate that you could be part of this broadcast this evening. You can always continue the conversation on our social media platforms. Gentlemen, of course, appreciating you, Dismas Mukua, political risk analyst. Asante sana for the great insights. Honorable Stephen Munanier, the Deputy Governor, Muranga County. Asante sana. Last but not least, the Deputy Governor of Machakos County, Honorable Francis Mwangangi. My name is Linda Alela. I also appreciate the presence of John Kinuthia, who was here earlier on, of course, to articulate on the Vietnam-Kenya concern as Tunduta, and as well appreciating my sign language interpreter, Catherine Simaloi, and the entire team that has made the broadcast a success, and you back at home for keeping us company. Do have yourself a lovely night ahead. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.